Hey, we are in the 19th chapter of Genesis. I think Mike closed out the 18th chapter last week. Well, this is kind of a long chapter, but we'll try to get through it tonight because it's basically one story. It's the whole thing is about. So I want to begin tonight with a math equation. Okay. Now, if you have a pencil, you can write this down, or you can just look at it up here. I'm going to go around here. It's 50 minus 5 minus 5 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10 minus 6 minus 1. Now, you math majors will probably come up with this very quickly. Does anybody have an answer to that? 50 minus 5 minus 5 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10 minus 6 minus 1. Three. Okay. Can't get past where I got one hand, right? Yeah, to do that. What's the significance of 3? It is.
The 3 that didn't get destroyed.
Oh,
The only 3 that did not get destroyed. The 3 souls that were saved from the land of Sodom and the land around it and the destruction. And that's basically the whole subject tonight. But the big picture is a story of fear and faith. The fear that's going on with the people that we're involved with Lot and his family. The fear of Abraham, which we looked at in the last chapter of how he was praying, asking God for all these to change it from 50 on down to 10. And then the faith that is lacking in Lot, the fear that's there with him. That's what this whole story is about. What was Lot's relationship to Abraham? What was their relationship?
Nephew.
What?
Nephew.
Nephew, right. Grandfather was Tyrannus, and Haram was his father, and I think he died and at an early age, and basically came with or was with the family of Abraham. But how, when we're looking at this whole picture, and I'm going back a little bit, but how did Lot wind up in Sodom? How did he wind up in Sodom?
Abraham let him choose the land that he wanted and
Right.
chose.
He was a little greedy, wasn't he? Because he saw it as being the land of milk and honey, right? Basically is what he said in terms of that. And so he moves to the Sodom area. All of a sudden, these 5 cities that are there, kind of uprising against the king. And then the king wins the battles there, takes over the 5 cities again. And then Abraham enters the scene. Abraham then takes all of his army, you might say, or whatever, goes down and takes it over himself. But then after all of this, Lot still stays in Sodom. Why? Why does Lot still stay in Sodom after all this is going on? For the same reasons he went there. He's made a nest there in Sodom. He is, as we'll see in just a moment, we know that he becomes one of the key people in the city because he's sitting there at the gate when the 2 angels appear to him. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But let me tell you right off the bat, I am not a big fan of Lot nor his family. Now, when you read this, you see all the different variations of what's going on because his whole life, Connie, is a picture of greed, a negative influence, living in a sinful environment. He knew this. Obviously, he knew this when you see what's going on here. He knew God, but he chose to live among people who would lead his family into sin and complacency. How does that apply to us today? What's the lesson for us today? I mean, we can choose where we live, most of us, we can live, physically in a city, we can live within certain boundaries of areas, the whole state of Florida. You love Florida because it's warm. Anyway, I love Tennessee, but I don't want to be in Tennessee right now. It's cold. Or up north, some of you moved from up north. So you made a decision to live in a certain area. The decisions that we make a lot of times about where we live and who we associate with sets our standard. Sets our standard. Now, you can say, well, Lot was the light in the darkness there. I don't see that. I don't see him being the light in the darkness there when we look at the whole chapter of what's going on here. So it's important that once we decide where we are, I don't know about you, but I know when Sherry and I moved to Florida, the first thing we did was we said, where's the church? Okay, we moved out. Where's the church? Well, where we moved to, there was one church in the whole county of Florida. So wasn't any question about where we were going to go in terms of that. But there's a lot of different places that have a lot of different environments that you can live in. Lot chose one that was a sinful environment. And here's what happens to him in terms of that part of it. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's all we ever hear. Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, actually, it was 3 more cities in that whole plains, all right? And 2 other cities, Admah and Zebulun, if I can pronounce them, Zebam, I guess, Biam, whatever. It's very significant. Yes, we read about it here, but in the New Testament, 4 times, at least 4 times, might be more, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah is mentioned again. Christ mentioned it twice. In Luke 17, Christ said, but in the day that Lot went out from Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Point. After the same manner shall it be in the day that the Son of Man is revealed. Does that give you some thought about how this world will be destroyed? Second, Christ said, those that do not receive or hear your word, talking about his disciples when they went out, I say it's more tolerable for them, for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, in the day of judgment, it will be for them. That's pretty scary right there. They were going into the cities to preach the word, and they told them if they don't receive you, that's what he was talking about. Kick the dust, go and leave. Peter said, he referred to it when he said, just as God delivered Lot, he will not destroy the righteous with the wicked, wanting everyone to be saved. So we know how many was found righteous there in Sodom. Jude also makes it, says the destruction of Sodom to be a type of eternal fire that shall consume the wicked at the time of the judgment. God is not letting us forget in any way what destruction is going to be like. And so that's a word to us, a word of warning, a word of whatever it is about how things are going to happen. People tried to say, based on what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah and the other cities, there's probably an earthquake or a volcano or something like that. I can't go with that in any way because there's a city that was not destroyed that was right in the middle of them, all right? The one that Lot wound up going to. So it's got to be coming exactly as he said, coming down from the heavens, okay? God saw it that the human race will again appear with hardened hearts universally. Is that where we are today? Is that where we are today? Each generation thinks that everything is the worst it ever could be. When you were growing up, I could hear my mother and father, oh me, what in the world is going on now? I mean, what's going to happen? Is God going back now? Every one of us thinks it's the worst it can be. I don't think it's got the worst that it can be. Based on everything that needs to be changing as we go along. God's in control, he'll make that decision when it happens. But it's just an example for us. If you could, I'd like for somebody to read the first 14 verses of the chapter 19, if you would. Anybody, whoever gets to it. Okay, Jack.
The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. "My lords," he said, "please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning." "No," they answered, "we will spend the night in the square." But he insisted so strongly that they go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them." Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of our way," they replied. "This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so they could not find the door. The two men then said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out, he spoke to his sons-in-law who were pledged to marry his daughters, and he said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking.
Thank you, Jack. That's a long reading, but thank you. It kind of sets the whole theme of what we're talking about here tonight. First of all, were these the same two angels that was in the previous chapter where he talked about it in 18?
Could be.
Well, I think it definitely is, because I think the 22nd verse of whichever one, 18, I'm not sure which verse it is, says, "And the two men and the two angels left and went towards Sodom." Okay, so I think it's the same one. Now, the question is, I don't know for sure whether Lot recognized these men as angels, but he did do what? Got down on his knees, all right?
Lord.
I done called him Lord, so I believe he must recognize these, and I'm sure God allowed him to be able to do that. But what's Lot doing at the city gate? What's he doing sitting at the city gate? I mean, you think about the gate of the city, why would anybody be sitting at the gate of the city?
That's where all the prominent people sat at that particular time.
Yeah.
And he was,
Well, that's where the people who were actually doing the judging, that's where all the cities had these things where people would, the key people of the city would be there. I guess they probably alternated, all right, in between who would be there. And when legal matters or when things came in, they would handle it right there at the gate if it was possible. So Lot had made his stand, you might say, there, and had become a fairly, we know he was wealthy to begin with. We know that Lot, when he left, he was wealthy. And so he made his way there, and he had become a part of the whole surroundings of the city when he was there. But he said, I want you two men to come and stay with me. Angels hired to look. And they said, no, we'll stay in the square. Squares, like, you know how towns are, that square, every small town in Old Tennessee, the county seat, there was a square there. That's where everybody met. That's where all the legal things happened there. Well, in this case, the square in the cities was where people actually came to just talk and be a part of it. And they also obviously had either some type of area where you could stay. But they said, but Lot said, no, I don't want you to. So what? He had a fear for them immediately of what was going to happen. He knew these people. It's very obvious as we read on when it comes to this part of it. So the wicked of Sodom, and when you look at verses 4 through 8, the wickedness of Sodom was not merely a few. It was how many? All the men. Think about that. All the men of the city came there because they saw two new faces. Young men, maybe, beautiful, somebody that they had not had before. What's the obvious implication here? That they had had some type of sexual relations with everybody else in the city. I mean, I don't know that to be true, but that seems to be the whole idea here, that they were that sinful that they had had homosexual relationships there. Because we see later they weren't interested. Who were they not interested in?
Girls.
The girls. Think about a place like that. Think about how bad a place like that is. I can't imagine a place here anywhere that's would be that bad. Yes, sir.
And it says young and old.
Yeah.
So it's not just, the men, it's the younger men. So it's not just something that's done, it's a practice. And people are actually raising up in that and learning that particular sin.
Yeah.
And it's normalcy for them. It's abhorrent to us and abhorrent to the angels, of course, but to them, it was a natural thing, which is obviously unnatural.
It just seemed like that was something was just in their day-to-day activities in some sort, because well, we do recognize the fact that these people there were not godly in any way.
Sure.
Probably pagan worshipers and everything else, and that was a part of the pagan whole society. There is sexual indifference about things that are going on with that. So, but that's all we can do. I mean, how many times you heard the word sodomites? All right, that's kind of a word you say, oh, they were sodomites, or they or whatever it might have been. So the term itself stuck with it. But it's an interesting statement. The next statement there, I guess that is probably verse 8. Not sure, 7 or 8. But when they wanted them to bring out the two men, Lot opens the door. Get this picture now. Lot opens the door and he goes out. And what does he call them?
His friends.
Friends. Not only did Lot participate in the affairs of the city, but he refers to these lust-minded, however you want to call it, as friends.
Don't speak too highly of Lot.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Well, remember, I started my section saying I'm a big friend of Lot.
Remember, Lot's daughters are engaged to two of these men that are outside. This house.
Excuse me, Philip.
Lot's daughters are engaged to two of the men that are outside of this house right now.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
When I
yes,
said that the city's young and old, it's,
But he tried to.
that's that standard mirrors. I'm just saying, all the men in the city were out there.
Tried to get them into.
okay, if all the men in the city were there, were they there?
Huh?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess.
Lot's daughters' fiancés are out in this crowd.
That's probably very true. Now, there's a lot of questions, and we'll get to that about whether, anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Another issue that faced there from that standpoint. But,
Can
yes.
I say something?
Sure.
He does call them my friends. I have that in my translation too. Although I'm thinking possibly it could be a de-escalation measure to call people friends. And I
Yes.
say that because then the next thing he says is, don't do this wicked thing. He knows it's wicked and he's calling it to their attention that it's wicked. So
He's
yeah,
trying to
it's
get
normal,
ahead, he's trying to reach their conscience, right? It looks like to me that's what he's trying to do, is reach their conscience. But you're exactly right. It could be, we don't know exactly what the, how he may have stated the words, but we do know he used the, I pray is one of the other translations, I think. I pray, friends, or I pray, brethren. All right, I think is another translation. that says that. But, the events the whole night proves that, that Lot did not belong in Sodom. So the question that comes up in verse 8 is Lot actually offering his daughters? Or is he trying a desperate act to appeal to their sense of conscience? Any thoughts on that?
What exactly, are you asking, did he actually say these words, take my daughters out of them? Are you asking whether that's in doubt or what?
I'm saying that what was his, was this a ruse? Okay? In other words, knowing that they, at what role they were in, they didn't want the women, obviously after the fact. But the question is Lot using this to try to save the two men by saying, well, I'll let you have my daughters, okay? But was that a ruse? Because he knew they wouldn't take the daughters because of what they were looking at. Are you seeing what I'm saying? You know, was this?
I think so. I would have to say that he thought he honestly meant when he offered up his daughters that there it is. Yeah, I don't, whether he thought they were going to take it or not, we know how it
That's a
turned out. When
question.
Levi was concubine, so.
Yeah, we.
Yeah. It seems like that, regardless of what it was disgraceful. Even if it was kind of a tactic or a ruse to try to get them to go away and not take the two men, it was really stupid. It was weak and was it sinful? Sure, it was sinful.
It doesn't make any sense to us. I mean, it's
Yeah,
one of those,
right.
it's one of those parts of the Bible where you just can't explain it, you just accept it, and that shows the depravity of society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep going back and I'll go from here to there with it. And what's confusing to me a lot of times, biblically, be right with you there just a second. Peter calls Lot a righteous man.
He said it. Hear you.
Hard to think about, Jim.
When these two men show up, the way it reads to me is Lot knew they were not two ordinary men.
I agree with you.
And I think that Lot is trying to prevent, the men of the city from attacking two servants of God any way he can.
Yes, I don't know how much Lot knows how God has dealt more directly with Abraham, and God knows Abraham. Abraham knows God, and he knows when he can talk to him, when he needs to be quiet, and all of those kinds of things, because we see that throughout their relationship. I don't know whether Lot had that relationship or not, but if he did, wouldn't he know that these are two angels? They're not going to be able, God's not going to allow this to happen to begin with. Just throwing things out there, in terms of that.
Well, when you think about it,
Yeah,
the two angels initially wanted to go to the square,
yes,
which would have put them right in the middle of all these guys. Do you think they were worried about that?
exactly.
Not the least little bit.
No.
No.
I don't think, they didn't have the fear, they had the faith, okay? So that's why I saw this whole chapter's about fear and faith, all right? In terms of that part of it. But anyway, he really was avoiding one sin and committing another sin. That's basically what he was doing there, this situation.
The lesser of two evils.
I don't know what it is, but yeah. Yeah, again, he says, you're under my protection. That's what, that, the whole thing about, back then was if you came into somebody's house, they were responsible for you, okay, while you were there. And that's part of the deal there. So the two angels pulled him in from the men, and then he pronounced what on him? Some type of blindness. There's a good chance this wasn't, he put them all blind. There's a good chance it's the same way it happened in 2 Kings with the Syrian army, where he made them to where they could not see, could not identify even where they were. Now, I don't know that, sure, but I don't know whether all of the men were blind, actually blind, but it's immaterial. They could not determine which way to do from there, because we see the next step is that Lot goes out, right? Goes out to find his daughter-in-law's future husbands or we'll see about how that really works out. In the house, there only seem to be the two angels, obviously. Lot, Mrs. Lot. I have to call Mrs. Lot instead of Lot's wife, not Mrs. Lot. Is that all right with y'all? And the two daughters, I've got names for them too. We'll get to that later, all right, in terms of that part of it. So the question is this, and Philip brought it up a minute ago. Saul leaves and he goes out to try to find what? His son-in-laws, all right? Now, if they were in that group, and I don't know what the scenario is here, just looking. But there's a lot of thought that maybe he had other daughters. And they were out there with the sons-in-law. The sons-in-law, he goes to them and he tries to plead with them to leave because what? They're going to destroy the city, and they do what?
Laugh at
Laugh at him, all right? So his, he doesn't have a very good relationship here in terms of his family because they don't want to go. His wife does not want to go. We know that in a few minutes. Now, I don't know the answer to this. I just throw it out to you. A lot of what I have read says that possibly there were other daughters and son-in-laws out there. But immaterial, he went out to, it's not immaterial to the story that we're talking about here. But regardless of that, he did not have enough influence to get him to what? Come back with him. Come back with him. Okay? Sad commentary. That's in this family of Lot. Sodom had basically, and I think this goes back again to what Philip said, had basically already destroyed whom? The son-in-laws, if he was part of it. And Lot had lost his power of persuasion. So among the families, Lot is in a mess because of one thing. His decision to move and stay where? In Sodom. There could have been other places that were bad too, but we know that that's a decision made. Let's read the next verses, somebody else, from 15 through 29.
I'll read it.
Please do.
With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away. Then the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his two daughters and led them safely out of the city. The Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in the sparing of my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant you this request. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zor. By the time Lot reached Zor, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew these cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up, and returned to the place where he stood before the Lord. He looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham.
Thank you. A lot of reading again on that, again, a lot fairly long chapter. We'll try to see if we can. Let's brief this up and see what was going on here at this time. Why did Lot linger? Why did he have to be almost physically taken out of there? What do you think?
That was the seat of his wealth. I think that was the seat of his wealth, that city. He didn't want to leave it. I think that was, he had made a life there regardless of all the evil things that were going on. He had made a life and he was wealthy.
He had all the possession. He had all remained, and there's a doomed city. He wanted to take everything. If he was going to go, he wanted to take everything with him. It was kind of like people that have a house fire, something like that. People are literally killed because they do what?
Go back again.
They run back in to try to find something that is of earthly value, and they can't get back out. Firefighters say that happens all the time in fires. People go back in thinking they can save something. And so I don't think he's thinking he's going to save this, but I think he's talking about the fact that both he and Mrs. Lot did not want to leave. Doesn't say anything too much about the dollars at this point as to where they stood with it. But it was humanly impossible almost for Lot to tear himself away from all that he had. And we know that his wife failed utterly in doing this, obviously, and not even Lot would have been spared if they had to, can you visualize this? It's like, I will just jerk you out of the house. Let's get out of here. You got to get out of here. It's getting to be morning almost, and that's when it's going to happen. So Lot additionally makes his whole rescue difficult. What does he do? No, I don't want to go to the mountains. I want to go to this other small city over here, Zoar, all right? If I go there, I'll be okay. I get the feeling that Zoar was going to be taken out too. But God, again, what did he do? He said, okay. Just like he did to Abraham. Okay, if you can find 50, if you can find 40, if you can find 30, if you can find X, Y, and Z, then I won't destroy it. So he says to Lot, okay, get over there to Zoar, but you got to go quick, get out of here. And then I will not rain fire and brimstone, sulfur, however you want to say it, down on that particular city. God grants his wish, and he doesn't destroy that fifth city of the plains. There was 5 cities in those plains that we're talking about there. So then the big question comes up. Why did Mrs. Lot look back? Why did she look back?
To see what was happening. Curious.
Now, ladies, I'm not going to say that women are curious, that they want to find out about everything. I wouldn't say anything like that. Right, Jenny?
Right.
Okay.
Human nature.
Human nature.
Or was it that was where her heart was?
Yes, I think that's a very good point, though. Very good point. But you got to read further in the New Testament to actually see what she did. She not only looked back, she started back. Luke 17, 28, 32. You can go there or not, but I'll just go over it with it. But anyway, if you read that, you'll see she not only looked back, she started back to Sodom. And of course, that's when it happened. And she was taken out as a pillar of salt. Of course, you know what that analogy is about the salt and how that's used many times in scripture in terms of that part. So there's a little bit more of an explanation as we get into Luke 17, I believe it's verses 28 to 32. If anybody has it, they might read it, but.
Bill,
yes, sir.
I think that what we have to remember here is the angels gave them three commands. Get out, don't turn back, and don't stop. Okay? And Lot's wife turned back. And I think that that's a lesson for us today, that we as Christians, it's as easy for us to turn back to the world as it was for Lot's wife to turn back to the city. And we
Tom,
have
you must have read my notes, because that was the next thing I was gonna go into there. To
Okay,
say,
sorry.
you know, what is that implication? Thank you, Tom. Because what's the implication there? The implication is the message, don't stop until we reach what? Till we reach heaven, till we reach our destination. She's a warning that having begun to follow the Lord's word, just as Tom just said, one may still turn back from the way of the Lord. We like to possess both worlds. We like to possess our earthly world, and we want to possess the heavenly world. And that's what this is saying. So,
You were saying that in Luke 17, that it says that Lot's wife went back and started heading back?
what's 28, verse 20, somebody got 28 to 32.
28, starting in 17:20, it says, it is the same, it was the same as happened in the days of Lot. They were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on that day that Lot went out from Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. It will be just the same as the day of the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, the one who is on the housetop and whose goods are in the house must not go down to take them out. And likewise, the one who is in the field must not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. That turn back is not referring to Lot's wife. It's talking about the person.
No, I think she'd actually, well, it just looks like to me that maybe she not only just looked around, but she actually was turning back. But it may or may not be exactly that way, but in other words.
33. Whoever seeks to keep his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will preserve it. I tell you that on that night, there will be two in the bed, one will be taken, the other will be left. There will be two women grinding in the same place, one will be taken, one will be left. The two men will be in the field, and one will be taken, and the other will be left. And answering them, and answering, they said to him, where are the vultures? And he said, where the body is, there also the vultures will be gathered.
I think, in 32, when it says, remember Lot's wife, and then in 33, whoever tries to keep his life will lose it. That's what she was doing.
Yeah.
Her heart was in the city, her life.
Right.
Her heart.
Yeah.
She was trying to save her life.
And she was
And,
going down.
and so she lost it.
But Tom's exactly right. The 3 points there about, he said, do what? Leave, don't look back, and do what? No.
Don't stop. No.
So her turning back was exactly what caused her, all right, to lose it. Now, that seems like a very, very simple thing, because Lot was doing all of these kinds of things, but he did not. He did what? He kept moving toward Zoar, all right, and didn't change his mind to try to look back or go back, whatever it might be.
And you know, the temptation had to be great when all of a sudden his wife's not there
Yeah.
and
Well, their daughters, fathered on too, in
Yeah.
terms of that part of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but there's always one, right? It seems like that, can't do exactly the right thing. It seems like there are a lot of things were going on there that they could have failed at. But here's the one thing, when the angel showed them those 3 things, as Tom said, that one thing got her in terms of that part. She just couldn't leave what she, or couldn't think she could leave what she had there in terms of that part.
Bill,
Yes, sir.
one of the footnotes I read said the word look back has the connotation of looking intently. It might possibly be rendered lagged back or maybe returned back.
Well, that's,
So it's a possibility.
I just wanted to lay that out, that there's a lot of different interpretations of that. And it's immaterial. She did what? One thing.
He turned.
Look back.
Regardless of that, she turned salt.
Yeah.
You know, as we finish up this particular part, the next picture we get is Abraham. What's going through his mind? He gets up in the morning and he looks down and he sees what? I mean, these are not that far away. You can see it, be like, looking from, some part of Mandarin or something and looking into Jacksonville maybe, or something of that sort. He doesn't know what's happened. There's not anything. He doesn't know whether Lot's alive, whether everything is gone. I think he certainly can render himself to believe that he's like stunned. He's speechless. What in the world is what's going on? I see the smoke. So it must have happened. So he is in despair at this point, thinking that his prayers have been in vain. And one part of the prayer was in vain. He did destroy the city. He's praying that he wouldn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah and that group. But the other part, Lot was saved. All right. So that's the saving grace, you might say, of what that part of it said there. But so we talked about Peter saying that Lot was a righteous man. To me, this is a tragic, pitiful episode of proof that Lot and his family had stayed in Sodom too long. They had become a part of the what? The culture.
Really?
They had become a part of this. Now, it doesn't say anything about Lot, becoming demonic or things of that sort, but it's obvious that the Sodom was still in them. He didn't want to go. She didn't want to go. Well, that, to me, tells the whole story of what we're talking about here, about the faith and fear, not having faith in God, or at least not showing the faith in God to have it, and the fear that he had of what would happen to him on the earth here. The final few verses is kind of interesting that it's put into this chapter. The story of Lot and his daughters after they have gone to Zoar. We don't know how long they actually stayed in Zoar, but eventually they leave. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar, settled in the mountain. He was afraid to stay in Zoar. I think I would have been afraid to stay there too. I've been afraid to stay in Sodom. Same thing there. The whole story here, though, and I'm not going to read that because of our time. The two daughters make a decision. First of all, they said, well, we don't have any men. So how in the world are we going to keep on our lineage? That's basically what they're trying to figure out. But there were men in Zoar. Maybe were they all the same way as the ones in Sodom?
Well, how about, Father Abraham? Because he's got this big, huge population and he was watching the smoke. If he's watching the smoke, he can't be that far away that they couldn't have taken travel there. So, what are we being told here? This is a garbage reason. We already.
Exactly. In other words, they just wanted to not have to go anywhere or do anything, but they wanted to have a lineage. So they decided, okay, let's get Lot drunk. Now, I don't know what the implications are with Lot here. It's kind of obvious that I don't think he would have gone for this, doing it in his own mind. But that's what can happen to people when they drug out or they get drunk or whatever. So you have to blame him in some ways, right, for him allowing this to occur. But anyway, so one night, if it was one night, next night, I don't know, it's immaterial. All right, they do it, they have sexual relations, and then the next night or the next or whenever, the other daughter does it. I can't really figure out why, except for one reason, that we have this put into this part of the chapter. Because out of this lineage comes two of the worst tribes they could ever be.
Yeah.
All right? The Moabites and the Amorites, all right? There's only one Moabite that I found was worth very much. Who is it?
Ruth.
Ruth. But when the children of Israel comes into Canaan, God says, kill them all except two. Those two tribes. So he's holding the lineage of Lot through that. So they were not allowed to have them, but they were the enemies of Israel for the whole time that the rest of what we see biblically in terms of the wars and rumors of wars and things of that sort. They named the son, they named Moab, father of the Moabites, and the younger daughter had a son, they named him Ben-Ammi, father of the Amorites. So now we see this wicked story, old story of Lot, yet he was saved. So righteousness has its way of looking at it. God has a way of looking at righteousness in various ways. To me, it's all the way because of through Abraham that he did this, that he knew that Abraham was going to be the seed throughout all the way. And the people that are involved with him came through it the same way too. That's the 19th chapter. Questions, anything anybody want to bring up that, about it?
Just one comment. It's interesting. We look at Peter calling Lot righteous in the way we look at Lot. Yet at the same time, we look at it totally different. And he was a righteous man after God's own heart, and look at everything that he did.
That's a very good.
So I think it just really shows we see things through our eyes. God sees them much differently.
Who else? Look at Abraham. I'm not going to jump into Mike's thing for next week, but in the 20th chapter, he does the second time, he's uses a half truth, right?
Right.
Tells them, my sister, right? Not my wife, and so forth. And so this was something they decided on pre-time. So anyway, righteousness is variable relative to God, how he sees this and what his whole plan is in terms of that. Anything else? Everything all right? Let's close with prayer. Dear God, as we leave this ancient night, that we've had a study of your man Lot, dear Heavenly Father, and Abraham, and we'll be looking at Isaac and Jacob and others as we go through this series. And we know, dear Heavenly Father, this is the start of the world, and how that Abraham, the father of all of us, dear Heavenly Father, and we look to you as our Father, our certainly the one we pray through your Son to you for all the various things that we believe we need, and you know what we need, dear Heavenly Father, and we certainly know that we need to carry your good news wherever we possibly can, discipling whenever possible, and we pray, dear Heavenly Father, you'll give us encouragement and also opportunity to do that. Please forgive us of our sins. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill, you,